Now, I am not a neoliberal by any means. I believe that the major centers of economic power in a given country should be nationalized in order for the proceeds from said companies to go to services for the people, or these companies deal with resources and things that are so vital to human life, such as healthcare or energy, for example, that having them on the private market just doesn't make a lot of sense, that instead those things should be taken off the table. Healthcare is an obvious example. I think that should be nationalized, but I also think this should be the case with the pharmaceutical industry. I think this should be the case with universities, with the electrical grid, with oil and virtually all mineral extraction and energy production. I think this should be the case with the postal service. I think this should be the case with telecommunications. I think this should be the case with a wide variety of things which are vital to human life. But with that being said, I still want a vibrant consumer economy, ideally one with worker cooperatives being at the helm, where you still have a private market that you're operating within the context of, but you have some sort of worker democracy where you work. Of course, that's sort of a pipe dream, but ideally that's what I would like to see with private industry, and of course to still have those industries regulated so that they're not polluting and things like this. But we know that having very few trade barriers for consumer goods, for things that are not necessity goods, and even for necessities like food, is generally to the benefit of all people in a country. It makes things less expensive. It also makes it to where there is more economic activity in the country that has very few trade barriers. And we also know that the fewer trade barriers that exist across the world, the less likely it is for wars to occur, because economies become so intertwined that it is disadvantageous for them to go to war with one another. Now, this is what I want to see. Oh, also, I forgot to mention a little earlier that I think that the banks should be nationalized as well, but that's a topic for a different video. So, clearly, I am not a neoliberal, but I buy into some of the arguments for free trade, and I think barring, certain industries which I want to be in the hands of the government, there should be a robust system of free trade where many different people have the opportunity to create their own firms that are trading with other firms internationally, right? I want this to be the case. And beyond, having a society where there is more economic activity, so to say, where things are less expensive, I think this is particularly important for global peace. But more than that, I think this is important to deliver people the best products possible, which is part of where I do buy into a part of the neoliberal framing. If you look at China, for example, right now, they are literally producing a better electric vehicle at BYD, and it is far cheaper than any of the models that we have here in the United States. And yet, BYD's vehicles cannot be sold here. They are tariffed out of existence. And for what reason? To protect fledgling U.S. businesses, people with factory jobs that could just as easily be provided for with a more robust welfare state or a federal jobs program, for example. I mean, we are artificially subsidizing these industries. We are keeping them alive through these trade practices when, like, maybe if they're making a bad product, they should be able to go out of business, right? Or if they don't go out of business, they happen to come up with something new inspired by this other product which is on the market, and effectively forcing them to be better, to improve, which is generally what occurs on the free market, right? Unless you have a piece of technology that was entirely government funded, which is the case with most of our medicines over here. Most breakthrough technologies over here are funded by the government, but that's also the case in China. Um, Unless you end up with that breakout success where it actually is a case of the free market just pushing innovators to want to do something better. It's been known to happen. It does occur. But right now, the restrictions that we're putting on the market prevent that process from ever occurring, as rare as it may be. You know, so it's this strange thing where generally I would disagree with the kind of people that are very against tariffs. I don't like a lot of their arguments. I disagree with many of the things that they would like to do with society. But this is one where I have to agree with them because it doesn't make any economic sense, especially from people who purport to be free market capitalists. Um, why would you put all of these restrictions on innovation and so-called creative destruction? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Um, and so I want access to better products. If I liked smartphones, I would want access to a Huawei phone. If I wanted to drive an EV, I don't really drive as it stands, but if I wanted access to that, I would want a BYD car because they're very affordable and it's at least somewhat better for the environment than driving a gas-powered vehicle. So you can look at these various examples. The Canadians won't let themselves have better cheese than the stuff they produce because they're trying to protect domestic industry. And in that case, it's a stupid idea as well. It's always these economically nationalist ideas that prevent us from really being able to significantly innovate and improve, or at least have access to better products that already exist. So that's in a nutshell why I'm against tariffs. It is not from a neoliberal perspective. I want for there to be economic activity, but at the same time, I want for there to be certain industries which are taken off the table, which are able to make money for the people and to provide services to people at a much reduced rate than what we're currently seeing. Because, man, I'm definitely getting price gouged on this electricity. We need a state electricity firm to reduce some of the brunt of the inflation that we're experiencing right now, partially as a result of these tariffs. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't know what is going to transpire with this current administration with respect to this issue, given how random it appears to be at all times, but it doesn't seem to be going great for us over here in the good old US of A. Also, I have a terrible headache right now, so I think it's time to end the video.